do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 8th of June, and this is the weekend on GB News. Thank you so much for your company on this Sunday afternoon. Now, your stories this hour. Back in, but at what cost? Reform's chairman, Azia Youssef, sensationally returns just 48 hours after quitting over the burqa row. So is this a move forward for the party or more chaos to come?
Yes, just 48 hours after standing down, Azia Youssef returns, not as chairman, but in a new role. What does it mean for the future of Reform UK?
Indeed, and yet ban the burqa, that conversation that just does not go away. Kemi Badenoch says bosses should have the right to enforce a ban in the workplace, but is it a step too far? And Greta Thunberg, there she is, you can see her on your screens now, is on board a so-called freedom flotilla heading to Gaza. But is her latest stunt a mission of peace or part of a growing trend linking climate activism with anti-Israel extremism? And did you see the game last night? Well, do football fans set the tone? Last night's chants at the Andorra game turned on the Prime Minister. Well, the game was a bit dull. So are football fans the real political litmus test? It was boring though, wasn't it? I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. So last night's football game, England-Andorra, was a bit of a snooze fest, but the fans obviously thought so as well because they went through an entire repertoire of songs that weren't flattering to politicians. And you can't blame them because there wasn't else much going on. But it did get me thinking, OK, football fans, are they the real litmus test of what's going on in this country? I mean, and how often do our politicians actually talk to real people? They're always on about working people, but do any of them actually really mix with working people? In any case, we'll be delving into that one. But, as usual, this show is all about you and your comments. You know, real working people, or even not working. It's a Sunday. I don't want you to be watching telly. So let me know your thoughts on all the conversations we're having today, or anything you want to have a chat about. It is, as I said, a Sunday afternoon. Any case, really easy to get in touch. Just go to gbnews.com/yoursay and join in our conversation. But yes, he's back. Before we get into the stories, let's get the news headlines with, oh, it's that young man, Sam Francis again. Here he is.
Dawn, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says employers should have the right to ban staff from wearing burqas and any other face coverings in the workplace. Speaking to the Sunday Telegraph, she said she wouldn't allow veiled visitors into her constituency surgeries and believes staff should dress by choice, not community or family pressure. UK law allows dress codes but requires any restriction on religious clothing to be proportionate and for a legitimate reason. Her comments are likely to spark fresh debate on religious freedom and workplace rights. The UK has pledged a fulsome response to security concerns after reports the United States warned against allowing a Chinese embassy to be built near London's financial district. The Technology Secretary, Peter Kyle, said any issues would be handled through the planning process. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has called the proposal a security risk, warning it could serve as a hub for Chinese espionage. He says the embassy should not be approved, echoing concerns reportedly raised by the White House. Well, also in the United States, the fallout between Donald Trump and Elon Musk is fueling fears over deep cuts to NASA's science program, with 40 missions reportedly at risk. The White House is proposing slashing NASA's budget by nearly a quarter, with critics warning it could be the agency's worst crisis in decades. Trump has threatened to withdraw contracts with Musk's SpaceX, which NASA relies on to reach the moon and even Mars. Space experts say vital climate and planetary missions could be scrapped and warn the space program is being repurposed, they say, for flags, not science. An update on news coming to us out of Colombia this afternoon. The presidential hopeful Miguel Turbay is fighting for his life after being shot 3 times, twice in the head during a campaign rally in Bogotá. The 39-year-old senator was airlifted to hospital, where supporters have gathered in vigil. Police have arrested a 15-year-old suspect, though the motive at this stage remains unclear. The government and opposition have condemned the attack, calling it a direct assault on democracy. And Donald Trump has ordered the National Guard into LA following violent clashes there over immigration raids in a predominantly Latino district. The president has posted on Truth Social warning that radical left protests paid, he says, by troublemakers will not be tolerated. California's Governor Gavin Newsom has slammed the move, saying it is purposefully inflammatory and said it will only escalate tensions. LA's mayor has also said the troops haven't arrived yet, but federal officials confirm they will be on the ground within 24 hours, and we will keep across any developments for you here on GB News. And before I hand you back to Dawn, Sir David Attenborough has urged urgent action to save the world's oceans, telling Prince William we must act before we destroy this great treasure.
The thing which I am appalled by when I first saw the shots that were taken for this film are what we have done to the deep ocean floor.
Well, the pair were speaking after a private screening of Ocean, a powerful new documentary narrated by Sir David Attenborough, exposing the damage from overfishing and deep-sea trawling. Prince William, who calls Attenborough his inspiration, will address world leaders at a marine summit in Monaco later, urging urgent and optimistic action. The film Ocean supports protecting 30% of marine areas by 2030. That is a goal both men say could help the oceans recover. You're up to date just after 1 o'clock. I'll be back with you in around 30 minutes' time. Now, though, it's over to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. OK, and thank you for your company. It's a Sunday afternoon. I love these shows. I really do, because the highlight is spending my afternoons with you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's a very busy weekend. So let's get straight into today's story show. We've got a huge packed show for you. Now, just 48 hours after dramatically quitting as Reform UK chairman over the party's row about banning the burqa, Zia Youssef is back. His sudden return has sparked fresh questions about chaos at the top of the party and whether Reform can present a united front heading into a general election. Earlier, the deputy leader of Reform, Richard Tice, spoke to our very own Camilla Tominey about Mr Youssef's return. Have a listen.
What's going on is that Zia is back. He's going to be running the Doge unit, and by his own admission, Zia's been working 24/7 for 11 months. And look, it's a very high-pressure job. He was doing the job of about 5 people brilliantly, but he was just exhausted. And so, we're delighted that he's going to crack on.
Well, sounds very feasible, doesn't it? So let's delve a little deeper, shall we? Join me now is GB News reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, good to see you this morning. I mean, this was a bit like, oh, he's back. A bit of a surprise.
Yeah, 48 hours is now an eternity in politics, isn't it, Dawn? You heard Richard Tice there, the deputy leader, explaining what happened according to the party leadership. That is their consistent line on this. Essentially, Zia Yusuf was burnt out, exhausted, doing too much. He's been, or was, in post for 11 months as chairman, professionalising the party, expanding its base across the country, and that, combined with the levels of abuse he was receiving on X, they say, is what contributed to his resignation just before the weekend. And now he's back, albeit in a different role, although it still seems quite expansive. He's now going to be responsible for the Doge government spending auditor, sort of the little cousin of the Elon Musk-led initiative in the US, formally anyway. And he'll also be in charge of donations and some similar sort of party infrastructure issues. However, they are now appointing a new chairman. We don't know who yet, although my colleague Christopher Hope revealed yesterday that Nigel Farage expects to make that appointment in the next couple of days, along with a deputy chairman. Again, just stress, we don't know who those people will be yet, but they're splintering the responsibilities previously held exclusively by Zia Yusuf amongst several people. They're also looking for someone to assist with fundraising and taking a look at the Reform Party's coffers. So the question is, does this have any long-term impact on Reform's momentum in recent by-elections and the polling and the locals, of course? Well, that remains to be seen. Really, this is still the Nigel Farage show, and he is still the most popular and most well-known member of this party by an absolute country mile. So they would probably argue it doesn't make a huge impact, at least to the polling, but Zia Yusuf's impact internally was significant, hence why he has been brought back, albeit in a slightly more manageable position. Question is, can they maintain this and stop this infighting? We already had Rupert Lowe leave the party a few months ago, now sitting as an independent. He fell out with Nigel Farage. It does seem that Zia Yusuf has a much closer relationship with Nigel Farage, hence obviously why he's back so soon, and they've attempted to mend things. But you're right, Dawn. Is there more to come on this? We'll just have to wait and see.
It's interesting, Adam, because Labour were quick off the mark on this one. Ellie Reeves, the party chairman, describing Mr Yusuf's decision as a humiliating hokey-cokey. And when we've seen this from Labour infighting, we've seen it from the Conservatives infighting. And I think what everybody in the country is going now, it's like, can we just have one party that actually stays together and gets on with the job?
Well, that's it, isn't it? And that's ultimately what befell, amongst several things, but it certainly didn't help the Conservatives in the last couple of years of their government, having leaders every 10 minutes. And, all right, this isn't quite the same level of that sort of circus, you might say. But, like I said, it doesn't help. There needs to be a unity of voice, professionalism within the party for it to succeed. And therefore, this is a stumbling block, whether it's a large one, like I said. Nigel Farage is still the champion of this, and it's really a one-man band, at least to the public. So I don't think so, is my instinct. I think they will continue. But if this happens again and they don't get a lid on it, then perhaps over time it becomes more of a problem. But as I say, at the moment, I don't think it's a huge problem, but it's something they want to get a lid on if you take a look at how this has gone previously with, like I say, the likes of the Conservatives.
And Adam, just quickly moving on, looking forward to the week ahead, we have our Nigel Farage heading down to Wales to try and take on the Welsh Labour Party. They've done pretty well in Scotland, haven't they, coming from nowhere to actually challenging the SNP and, snapping at the heels of Labour. So it's an important week for Reform in general.
That's right, and I'll be there at that press conference, Nigel Farage giving that speech. Again, actually, it just speaks to their hunger to keep the momentum going and try and ignore the fallout around this or get past it, back on track as soon as they can. Like I said, I will be there asking a question on behalf of GB News, and we'll have more on that in the coming days. Again, as well, like I said, following or in anticipation of the announcement of a new chairman and deputy chairman, having a bit of a reshuffle, which, you know, I suppose is quite strong language considering there's only 5 MPs and they're still an upstart. But nonetheless, that's how it's being pitched, and we will have more on that in the next few days. But you're right, it's a big week, and they will want to move on from the last 48 hours as quickly as possible.
OK, all eyes on GB News for the next few days then. Adam, thank you very much. That's GB News reporter Adam Cherry on, well, the reform. Shenanigans, I think, is a good word for it, isn't it? OK, well, let's find out some more on this one, shall we? Joining me now is political correspondent at the Financial Times, Anna Gross. Anna, thank you very much for joining me today. Anna, now, you've got your ear to the ground on these things. Was this a surprise to you?
It was a surprise. Obviously, I'm aware, I think everyone is aware, there is some tensions in the top of the party over some policy issues and over management style. And that, you know, I was aware of that, and I think a lot of us were. However, you know, the decision to step away on Thursday did come as a big surprise, and it came to a big surprise to a lot of people in the party. It felt as though it was a real kind of last straw moment.
And do you think, I mean, Labour, as I said to Adam just now, are off the starting blocks straight away. This just goes to show that Reform are disorganised. It's a one-man party. It's hokey-cokey. They don't know what they're doing. Do you think it has damaged Reform?
I think that ultimately I agree with Adam that for the most part, this is a one-man party. This is Nigel Farage's success story. The vast majority of people up and down this country really only know one figure in Reform, and that is Nigel Farage. And so I don't think it's going to be damaging really at all from a kind of popular support standpoint. I do think it's challenging for the party internally. They've only got 5 MPs and a few dozen staff, and they're really struggling to keep unity. And you can see that, you know, that obviously happened with Rupert Lowe. That's come to the fore again now. I'm sure it's going to rear its head again. And I think the closer you get to an actual general election, the more damaging that will be, because I think one of Nigel Farage's biggest challenges, you know, yes, at the moment, the public are saying we're deeply frustrated with Labour. We're absolutely sick to death with the Tories, and we're not keen to go back to them. But you speak to a lot of people up and down this country, and they say, you know, I like Farage, I like some of what he's saying. I'm not 100% convinced he can be the man standing in front of number 10 Downing Street. And I think the more that these kinds of big blow-ups happen, these schisms happen, and it's quite messy, then there's mudslinging from senior people, and it's all online, the more you'll get people saying, I don't know, I really don't know if this man is prime ministerial material.
Anna, I mean, obviously, Zia's reasoning was, I was exhausted. I mean, it's 11 months, and to be fair, he doesn't appear to have taken any time off. So, I mean, that seems to be a reasonable excuse, and then obviously persuaded back. Do you believe his excuse, or do you think there's more to this than meets the eye?
I believe that, you know, Zia Youssef worked and probably will continue to work incredibly hard for the party. And it's undeniable he was a huge asset to the professionalisation drive. He was clearly very valuable to Nigel Farage and to the party. I do think it's true that he probably really was exhausted. He really was burnt out. That said, there were clearly ideological differences between him and other members of the party. There were clearly work style differences of how the party should be run, how it should be managed, how much oversight he should have had over different parts of the organisation. So I think what you saw there was a mixture of those kinds of things bubbling to the surface, and then an exhausted, tired man who's invested a hell of a lot of his own time and a lot of his own money, saying, do you know what, I can't be bothered with this anymore. And then he realised, actually, do you know what, maybe it is worthwhile for me.
We shall see, shan't we? Anna, thank you so much. That's our political correspondent at the Financial Times, at Anna Gross. OK, well, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Do you still have confidence in reform? Are you surprised by what's happened? Let me know. This story, this show is all about you. Now, if you want some good news, we've got it for you. We're counting down to your best summer so far with £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. It's the biggest cash Great British giveaway to date, and it could all be yours. And here is all the details. Very simple.
It's our biggest cash prize to date, and you could win it. £54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
£54,321 could make you our biggest cash winner to date. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. And we'll be announcing soon who won that camper van, although the rumour that Stephen Dixon has disappeared at exactly the same time is just a rumour, OK? Someone has won it. I'm Dawn Leeson, this is GB News, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. Now, Kemi Badenoch says bosses should have the right to ban face coverings at work. Is it about safety or discrimination? We'll debate that one up next. All of that and much, much more to come. This is GB News and Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, part of a Soviet-era spacecraft stranded in orbit for more than 50 years will crash back to Earth today.
Yes, Cosmos 482 launched in 1972 on a mission to Venus, but it failed to escape Earth's orbit and broke into 4 pieces.
Well, now experts are closely monitoring its re-entry, but where it will land remains a mystery.
It's due to land in, what is it, about 40 minutes now?
Yeah,
not long to go till we find out. Well, earlier we spoke to space expert Andy Land. He told us what makes this spacecraft different to the others we've seen previously.
Currently, it's over the South Pacific, so it's heading towards South America. The odds are really unlikely. The chances are it's going to crash into the ocean, to be quite honest. Other parts of this fell into the Pacific Ocean, although in the early days when it got into the wrong orbit, of course, the lower sections of it actually crashed into New Zealand and landed in a field. But no, I think you got more chance of being struck by lightning or winning the lottery than actually being hit by a piece of this material. The only interesting thing about this mission, of course, it is a Venus atmospheric entry probe, which means it's designed to survive entry through a dense atmosphere. And in particular case, Venus's atmosphere is more dense than the Earth's atmosphere. It's designed to withstand fantastic temperatures, absolutely fantastic temperatures, huge pressures. So this piece will hit the ground or hit into the ocean. That's what makes this a very different creature from previous satellites which are broken up, which normally they just break up into pieces. This is designed to actually come back. And in case people think, well, wouldn't the parachute system operate? It's unlikely the parachute system is operating at all after half a century. So it's going to be a ballistic drop.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing.
From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello and welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. Now, Kemi Badenoch says bosses should have the right to ban burqas and face coverings in the workplace. The Tory leader, who refuses to hold meetings with constituents in veils or indeed any face coverings, be they sort of like motorbike helmets or balaclavas or whatever, made the comments as debate over burqa bans returns to the spotlight. So should employers have the final say? Right, it's going to be a heated debate, isn't it, as someone once said. Joining us now is politics and culture editor at Further Inquiry, Khadija Khan, and senior litigation lawyer, Mateb Aziz. Thank you both for joining me on this one. Now, this is the front page of one of your papers today. I think it's the Telegraph, with Kemi Badenoch coming out and saying no burqas in the workplace. Companies should have the right to ban them. Khadija, what do you say to this one?
I think it's really good that we are having a debate that has been brushed under the carpet for so long. When we talk about burqa, niqab, it's not only about security concern. Yes, there are, these kind of concerns in this society, but there are also concerns about gender equality. And the activists and the women like myself, we have been, campaigning and talking, and all our concerns, they have fallen on deaf ears. No politician wants to talk about it because they don't want to offend the sensibilities of religious zealots. And I think it's a very good thing that now finally we are having this debate. And when Kemi Badenoch, she mentioned about burqa, she's not talking about targeting any particular group or a religion. She is talking about integration of people in British society. And she didn't only mention about burqa, she mentioned Sharia councils. She mentioned about how these Sharia councils, they operate in our society and as parallel legal system. And of course, we need to discuss these kind of things when we are talking about integration. Why not? We are a democracy. And if there are issues concerning, to the security and gender equality, and this issue of burqa and niqab, it is impacting, lots of women. It's not a matter of choice because it's a contentious issue among Muslims. Some Muslims, they say that it's a matter of choice for women, and mostly they are men. But there are women who are campaigning against it, who don't want to wear it. And for doing so, or even for saying so that I don't want to wear it, they have to face repercussions. So it's a human right issue. And as a democratic society, as a conscious society, I think we should have a debate, an open and honest debate on this issue.
OK, let's bring Mateb in now. This, as you know, it's about inclusion. It's about everybody feeling comfortable in the workplace. And we're not talking about hijabs or chadors. We're not talking about head coverings. We're talking about coverings of the face, the niqab and the burqa in particular. Do you think Kemi Badenoch has a point that in the workplace companies should say no to them?
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Dawn. Always good to be here. Well, I'm afraid this is another example of Kemi Badenoch's populist politics, playing to the baying sort of right, so to speak. Whenever we talk about these things, we have to understand that these rights are enshrined under the Human Rights Act of '98, in the European Convention on Human Rights, and also in the Equality Act of 2010. So we can't really just have sort of these decisions made, so quickly. I think every woman should have her own personal choice. And I must clarify that the burqa is something completely different. It's not what I think Ms. Kemi Badenoch is thinking of, which is actually the veil. There are very few women that actually wear the burqa in the UK, probably a very small amount. But the burqa is a very specific type of garment, and it's made only in certain types of Muslim countries.
To be fair, Kemi is talking about face covering. She's not talking about the hijab, which is just a scarf worn around the head where you can see a woman's face. She's talking about any form that covers the face. I mean, she's talking about balaclavas as well.
Yes,
but they always say the word burqa, which is actually incorrect. There's hardly anyone that wears a burqa in the UK.
Yeah, but
I think there is a burqa. I have seen myself, so many women that are wearing a burqa in this country. The problem is that what Kemi is saying is not a new thing in European continent. There are European rulings, like European Union's top court, they have ruled in favor of the companies who want to set rules according to the manifestation of certain symbols, religious, philosophical, and political symbols, you know, and they can ban their employees for the neutrality or for the neutral administrative environment in their companies. So I think she's not talking about something new, but I think we are politically correct to an extent where we are so afraid to talk about it. I don't see any trouble to discuss this matter, you know, when it is about security, it's about integration, it's about gender equality. Why not just have a discussion and let's see what people say and how we can enforce these kind of things in our society?
Can I just ask you a question as a woman, you know, as a woman that's been involved in this for quite a while now and spoken out quite strongly about it? If there was a ban on women wearing face coverings, we're talking about the niqab or the burqa, in the office, who do you think would be most upset about it? Do you think it'd be the women or do you think it'd be their fathers and husbands?
To my own observation, according to, like, I have seen, you know, in the community, in the you know, culture, it's mostly men who are upset about when they see their women not being covered. They are the ones who are upset, and they are the one who most insist, you know, the female member of their family to cover themselves from head to toe. And you know, Don, I am really disappointed that we are living in Britain. We are not living in theocratic Islamic states. So we cannot have a discussion. We cannot have free will, because we see the women who want to wear it, they are all fine. Because I don't want to comment on any individual who are wearing it, you know, who are claiming that she is wearing it out of will. I'm talking about those women, those girls, those primary school going children. Literally, I have seen little kids in burqa, and I know what is burqa. Nobody has to, you know, explain to me what burqa is. I know what kind of garment it is. I think it's really strange that we are living in a society where we have, you know, this closed section within Muslim community. There are minorities within minority. Okay. We need to understand this thing.
Let's bring Mata back into this conversation. Mata, is there anything you'd like to respond to in particular as the man involved in this conversation?
Sure. I'm afraid I have to disagree with that, because most of the women that I know that wear the veil in this country wear it out of their own personal choice. I've hardly come across a man saying that you must wear this. I mean, the UK is a free society. I mean, why on earth would a man insist on a woman wearing...
Sorry, Matt, but do you think women would be honest enough to say to you, as a man in this society, I don't want to wear it, but my husband thinks it's a good idea? Do you think women would be honest enough to say that to you?
Yes, there are. I've spoken to women before, and they have told me it's a personal choice. And I mean, in actual fact, the veil is actually not part of Islamic practice anyway, but it's like a personal choice. So if you look at the, you know, the Equality Act, every woman should have that right to. It's like a personal choice.
Okay, and coming back to you, Khadija, I mean, like you've pointed out, we see little girls wearing with face coverings. Why is it necessary for children to wear face coverings?
Yeah, this is what I would like to emphasize, that there is a huge pressure on girls, on children, on women within the community. I'm a woman from within the community. I can tell you that there is religious pressure, that it's some kind of, a manifestation of piety. Then there is a pressure from the family that you have to, respect the owner of the family, because this burden of the owner of the family is on your shoulder. Then this is the respect of your father, your brother, and your husband and your son. You cannot let them down. And then there are, certain religious readings that tell that if you refuse to cover yourself, you are taking 4 men of your family to hell with you. And among them are father, husband, son, and brother. So these kind of things pressurize young girls, children, and women to wear it. And I think, as my co-panelist said, that we are living in a free society, but I'm sure he wouldn't deny the fact that there are enclaves even within the community which are very much closed, which are very conservative, and they don't even want to discuss these things. And I would like to mention this one thing, that as long as there is no discussion about wearing any kind of covering, whether it is hijab, burqa, niqab, there is no commotion.
Okay.
But whenever there is an incident, like it happened in Birmingham when a girl, she was twerking, in public while wearing hijab, there was a huge backlash. She received death threats and all kind of abuse, and she had to apologize online just to save her life. I think this reality needs to be acknowledged.
Mahtab, let's just bring you quickly in this. When we started this debate, you said that Kemi Badenoch saying about burqas and niqabs in the office was throwing meat to the, sort of like to racists, basically. After listening to Khadija, do you still think that's the case?
Absolutely, because the reason being that you start with the veil, then you go on to the hijab, then you go on to other things. So these are things which are enshrined in the European Convention on Human Rights, and I think if you want to change them, you have to do them through the proper system, which is the legislation.
So
I just want to mention one thing, Dawn.
Go on,
that
quickly,
these accusations of racism and Islamophobia, they are relentlessly used to shut down the debates around women's rights within Muslim community. I think this is a very absurd and reckless effort to just straight away label people racist and Islamophobe. Let people have debate, let people have discussion, and we should not be afraid of having honest and open discussion.
Let's put that to you quickly and finally, Mahtab. I mean, this is Islamophobia and racism. Words that you've used, they are used to shut down debate. What would you say to that?
That's completely not true. When we have, the thing is, I agree that obviously there should be safeguards in place, and there are obviously people who misuse these things and try and exert pressure. But there's a very small minority. Overall, people actually do integrate through their faith, and this should not be a problem.
OK, thank you both so much. Very, very well argued points. And that's Khadija Khan and our senior litigation lawyer, Mahtab Aziz. Thank you both very much for making those points. Obviously, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. Let me know what you think on that. There's lots more coming up on today's show. But some breaking news for you. In the last few minutes, Israel's defence minister has threatened to take whatever means necessary to stop an aid boat carrying Greta Thunberg from reaching Gaza. So is her journey a mission of peace or a reckless provocation? We'll discuss that, and you don't want to miss that one. But first, let's get those news headlines with Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you very much indeed. Just after 1:30, let's bring you an update then on that news we just heard there regarding Israel's defence minister vowing to stop an aid flotilla carrying Greta Thunberg and a number of other activists from reaching Gaza this lunchtime. The vessel, Madeleine, operated by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, left Sicily last week, aiming, they say, to break Israel's naval blockade and deliver much-needed humanitarian aid to Gaza. Though Israel can Katz, the defence minister from Israel, said no boat will be allowed through, calling the blockade essential, he says, to break Israel's naval blockade and stop arms reaching Hamas. Tensions at this stage high after a previous flotilla attempted to access the region but was struck by drones in international waters, an attack that the group back then blamed on Israel. So we're just hearing that breaking news, as we heard from Dawn, that Israel's defence minister is vowing this lunchtime to stop an aid flotilla from accessing the Gaza region. We'll keep across any developments, bring you the very latest. In other news, though, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says employers should have the right to ban staff from wearing burqas and other face coverings in the workplace. Speaking to the Sunday Telegraph, she said she wouldn't allow veiled visitors into her constituency surgeries and believes staff should dress by choice, not community or family pressure. UK law allows dress codes but requires any restriction on religious clothing to be proportionate and for a legitimate reason. Her comments are likely to spark fresh debate on religious freedom and workplace rights. Well, the fallout between Donald Trump and Elon Musk is escalating and now fueling fears over deep cuts to NASA's science programme, with up to 40 missions now at risk. The White House is proposing slashing NASA's budget by nearly a quarter, with critics warning it could be the agency's worst crisis in decades. Donald Trump has threatened to withdraw contracts with Musk's SpaceX, which NASA relies on to reach the Moon and Mars. Space experts say vital climate and planetary missions could be scrapped, and are warning the space programme is, they say, being repurposed for flags, not science. And Donald Trump has also ordered the National Guard into Los Angeles following violent clashes there over immigration raids. The president posted on Truth Social warning that radical left protests by, he says, paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. California's Governor Gavin Newsom has slammed the move, saying it's purposefully inflammatory, and also said it will only escalate tensions. LA's mayor says the troops haven't arrived yet, but federal officials confirm they will be on the ground within 24 hours. Those are the latest headlines for now. Do stay with us for plenty more on that breaking news out of the Middle East with Dawn in just a few moments. First, though, let's take a short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, after a wet day for some of us yesterday, today is offering something a little bit brighter, but still the risk of some showers. So yesterday's rain all moving off now towards the continent. That's allowing this area of high pressure to briefly build in, settling things down a little bit, but there will still be some showers around, chiefly across more northern and central parts. Some of these showers, again, still could be on the heavy side, but in between, we will see some spells of sunshine, and especially for us in the south, it will feel a little bit warmer than it did yesterday. We see highs reaching 19, possibly 20 degrees in the odd spot. So as we end out Sunday afternoon across the south, for many southern counties, we should remain fairly dry with some late spells of sunshine. But for East Anglia, the Midlands, Wales, continuation of some showers here. And a very similar story for Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland. But even here, away from any showers, there will still be some late spells of sunshine as we see out the weekend. But do watch out for maybe a more persistent band of rain just arriving into the very far northwest of Scotland. Overnight, the showers becoming a little bit fewer and further between. That will allow more in the way of clearer skies to develop, so that could just allow some mist and fog to form as we go through the morning hours of Monday. But under the clear skies, it will be another fairly fresh night. Temperatures away from the towns and cities falling into mid-single figures. But I think most towns and cities probably holding up around 10 to 12 degrees. So a bright start for most of us on Monday morning. Plenty of sunshine, especially in the east, but thicker cloud moves in across Northern Ireland and Scotland as the morning goes on, and that's going to then bring in some rain as the day goes on. It's remaining largely dry and bright across the far south of the country, and it's here where we'll see the highest of the temperatures, could see temperatures reaching 21.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello and welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for your company this afternoon. Now, this story has developed certainly in the last few minutes, as you just heard from Sam's news bulletin. Greta Thunberg has once again made headlines, but this time it's not for climate change. The climate change activist is part of a group sailing under a British flag to deliver aid to Gaza, but critics say it's a political stunt that risks inflaming tensions. And as you've just heard, in the last hour, Israel's defence minister has posted on X saying, I have instructed the IDF to act to prevent the Madeleine, that's the name of the boat, from reaching the shores of Gaza and to take whatever measures are necessary to that end. He added, you should turn back because you will not reach Gaza. Wow, strong words indeed. You can't quite believe what's going on here, can you? So has Greta picked the wrong fight this time? Joining me now is Sunday Telegraph columnist Zoe Strimple. Zoe, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Obviously, we were going to chat about your column, a very strong-worded column about what Greta Thunberg is up to. But can you just react first to the breaking news that Israel have said, look, you know, this is not on and we will take whatever measures necessary to stop you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing surprising to me at all. And it's the completely right and obvious response. And the only reason that the response is being drawn attention to is by this really phenomenal set of circumstances, which has nothing to do with Israel's response, but everything to do with the fanaticism of Thunberg and co. So if there wasn't such a maniacal, kind of fanatical anti-Israel movement, then I don't think we would be familiar with the kinds of, I suppose then we wouldn't be seeing reactions like the one from the Israeli defense minister. It's a kind of strange position that Israel's being put in rather than anything odd about Israel's response. I mean, I think that they are trying to get in the way of what I've always said is a completely necessary war effort. And it's the same if, she was heading for the Russian, front line or whatever to try to kind of intercede on behalf of Russia. Israel's had to deal with activist types for forever, really, trying to get in the way of its military operations. And sometimes there have been high-profile examples where that ends up badly for them. Israel has generally been extremely, I'd say, generous with who it lets in. It's often let in lots of people who go just to make trouble, just to go to the West Bank, just to go to East Jerusalem, who have no interest in actually being in the Jewish state and who are its sworn enemies. But it's still, as a relatively free Western democracy, has let those people in. So I think all Israel is doing is what any normal country would do in these circumstances, is try to repel people with an enemy agenda.
So, I mean, Greta isn't alone on this boat. I mean, it's a flotilla, which is curious considering she doesn't like actually our sort of like, the energy that these boats must be producing. She's not sailing; they're using engines for a start. They are due to arrive in Gaza on Monday. Obviously, as we've just heard now, Israel won't let that happen. But she also has with her a lady called Rima Hassan, a French member of the European Parliament, who described the Hamas attacks on October the 7th 7th as a legitimate action. So these people are very... I mean, your views are very strong on this. Their views are very strong on this. You know, they're setting sail to see that to help Palestine find its freedom. I mean, they're actual actions. What do you make of them? I mean, your words are very strong on this. Is it about them? Is it about Gaza?
Well, just to go to that point about the implied equal treatment of my views and their views both being strong, there is no equalization possible because my views are on the side of life and Israel and Gazans living decently under a free leadership or ideally, I mean, Hamas was elected, so technically that could be seen as democracy. But they're on the side of endorsing the most bloodthirsty, monstrous, kind of sadistic, anti-Semitic, mouth-frothing Islamist terrorists the world has ever seen. So I would say that my feeling is a response to the passions that they are indulging in, which are scary because they're about supporting Hamas, which are, as we know what Hamas gets up to, whereas the Israel supporting feeling that I have isn't about Netanyahu's wonderful. He's not. He's obviously, whatever you think of him, whether you think he's the devil incarnate or not, he's a political liability and should go. And, Israel is not perfect like any country. But yeah, so I would say that my feeling is not the same as theirs, I suppose, even though both are strong. In terms of the flotilla, no, but I just make that point because people often fall into that trap of saying, well, both sides. It's not a both sides situation. Now, so the flotilla is just, I mean, look, the Israelis don't have the best PR. They use quite heated words. It sometimes doesn't sound like that slick, and it gets wearing after a while. But he does talk about it as a hate flotilla, and that is what it is because what the pro-Palestine movement has become without any attempts to hide the fact since October 7th is essentially a pro-Hamas movement, which is a pro-annihilation of Israel and second Holocaust movement. So, this flotilla is just that. It's just another iteration of what we've been seeing nonstop on the streets and the campuses, etc.
Zoe, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So you think the Israeli government are right to intervene and, potentially, hold the people on this flotilla in prison?
They can't, absolutely. I mean, this is just unheard of. I mean, imagine any other war setting where British subjects were doing that, which is what this boat is. So yeah, I mean, they've got exactly what's coming for them, and frankly, Israel will probably be very humane, even though they'll be tough in response. But yeah, I have no time for these people, and unfortunately they seem to have, as I said in my column, they've taken over. People actually believe that they're on the side of giving Palestine what it so badly needs. And
Zoe, thank you so much. We're sorry, completely out of time. Zoe Strimple from the Telegraph there. Thank you very much. I'm Dawn Neeson, GB News. Loads more coming up. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, welcome back. Let's talk football. Last night, Andorra, England, boring, but what was going on in the crowd? Aidan McGee, talk us through it.
Good to see you, Dawn. Yeah, look, quite simply, England fans took the opportunity, probably because they were extremely bored by what they were seeing on the pitch, to aim some abusive chanting at Sir Keir Starmer. Now, the issue here is that we don't see this that often, but when it happens, you know, I kind of tend to think that it's a good kind of gauge of how the nation is feeling, because if you look at these crowds, I've spent loads of time with them down the years, you look at where the flags are from, it's Rochdale, it's Hartlepool, it's Sunderland, it's Ipswich, it's Southampton, it's anywhere in London, anywhere in the big cities, so it's a good cross-section of people. Now, 6,000 people, England fans in the stadium, I'm not saying every single one of them was singing that. Thomas Tuchel is duty-bound to condemn those people because he works for the FA and it's part of his contract. But if you look back in the day, you consider things like when Millwall responded to the taking of the knee, didn't like that. That led to a bit of a climb down by the FA and the Premier League and EFL in terms of like that kind of gesture politics. If I look back to when I was at France '98, it was all about chanting against that was anti-IRA. So England fans are no strangers to getting involved and dabbling in politics if they want to. And I tell you what, they do it a little bit better and they gauge the mood a lot better than celebrities do, I can tell you that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, absolutely. And politicians that go to football, Keir Starmer being one of them, go prawn sandwich. So they're not in touch with real people.
Well, I'll tell you another example. Anne Diamond told me an example of when it wasn't football specifically, but she was at the Paralympics in 2012 and George Osborne, who was Chancellor at the time, got severely booed because of the austerity measures. So it's not just a right-wing thing, it's not a left-wing thing, it can be anything, to be honest with you. It can be, you know, but that's the point we're making. It's the mood of the day. It doesn't have to be a particular political strand. It's how people are feeling at one time, and when the match is boring, don't be surprised when fans find alternative means of entertainment.
Listen to football fans. Aidan McGee, thank you very much. OK, loads more coming up on the show, including King Charles. Is he finished? We'll find out all of that after the weather. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, looking ahead, it's going to stay fairly changeable across the UK, but as we head towards the middle part of next week, it could potentially start to turn very warm and humid. But for the here and now, we've still got this area of high pressure building in. That's trying to settle the weather down, but we still have some showers as we see out Sunday afternoon. Most frequent showers will be across the north, but as we go through the course of the night, these showers will become fewer and further between, allowing more in the way of clear skies to develop. So that will set us up for a fairly fresh end to the night, maybe also some mist and fog patches. In the countryside, could see lows falling into mid-single figures. So as we start Monday morning, a fairly bright start across eastern Scotland, some good sunshine here, elsewhere across eastern England as well. But for western Scotland, the cloud already beginning to build in with some outbreaks of rain here, and that cloud and rain also settled in across parts of Northern Ireland. But for much of England and Wales, it should be a fairly bright start. The odd shower around, with the best of the sunshine probably down towards the far southeastern corner. And really, it's the far southeast will probably hang on to the best of the brightness throughout the course of the day, as thicker cloud moves in during the course of Monday across many western and central areas. The rain mainly focused across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but it will arrive into parts of northern England and Wales as we move into the afternoon. And as I mentioned, down towards the far southeast, hanging on to the best of the driest, brightest weather, and it's here where we see the highest temperatures reaching around 21 degrees. Into the evening hours, the cloud and rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland will continue to make its progress eastwards. Some heavy rain as it does so, especially across the Pennines, maybe northern parts of Wales too, but that will clear through, and for the middle part of the week it should settle down a little bit before it turns warm, humid and possibly thundery as we end the week ahead.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock on Sunday the 8th of June, and this is the weekend on GB News. Your stories this hour. Back in, but at what cost? Reform's chairman Zia Youssef sensationally returns just 48 hours after quitting over the burqa row. So is this a move toward party unity or more chaos to come?
Yes, just 48 hours after standing down as chairman, Zia Yusuf is brought back into the reform tent, albeit in a slightly different role. But what does this mean for the future of reform?
And as King Charles ditches horseback duties at Trooping of the Colour next week, is it a sign that all the pomp and pageantry is starting to look a little bit out of step with modern Britain? And private schools, 2 more closures of private schools spark fresh questions over Labour's VAT raid. Is this piling pressure onto state schools or a necessary reset? And yeah, forget the bull in Birmingham. This week there's a Black Panther-like creature who's been spotted prowling just 5 miles away from Ed Sheeran's countryside estate. We'll have the details on that one. I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. So thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I know how busy weekends can be, so thank you. Really appreciate your company. And remember that there is no escape if you're driving or sitting in the garden, working in the garden. We're on the radio as well, and we're on all your screens, or your phone, your laptop, whatever. There is literally no escape. But this show is all about you and your views, so please do get in touch about everything we're talking about. gbnews.com/your say and joining our conversation about anything you want to talk about. It's a Sunday afternoon. Come on, people, let's enjoy ourselves. Before we get on to all the stories we're doing today, though, let's get the latest news headlines with the very lovely Sam Francis.
Dawn, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you. Fast approaching at 3 minutes past 2. We start with news in the United States, where Donald Trump has ordered the National Guard into Los Angeles following violent clashes over immigration raids in predominantly Latino districts. The president posted on Truth Social warning that radical left protests by, he says, paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. California's Governor Gavin Newsom has slammed the move, saying it's purposefully inflammatory and said it will only escalate tensions. Well, let's take you live now to pictures of the scene in Los Angeles as the National Guard prepare, from what we appear to see in those pictures, preparing to enter the Los Angeles district. LA's mayor saying that the troops haven't yet arrived on the streets, but federal officers are confirming they will be on the ground within 24 hours. So do stay with us here on GB News for the very latest out of LA this afternoon. The fallout between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, meanwhile, is fuelling fears over deep cuts to NASA's science programme, with 40 missions now at risk. The White House is proposing slashing NASA's budget by nearly a quarter, with critics warning it could be the agency's worst crisis in decades. Trump has threatened to withdraw contracts with Musk's SpaceX, which NASA relies on to reach the moon and even Mars. Space experts say vital climate and planetary missions could be scrapped and warn the space programme is being repurposed, they say, for flags, not science. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says employers should have the right to ban staff from wearing burqas and other face coverings in the workplace. Speaking to the Sunday Telegraph, she says she wouldn't allow veiled visitors into her constituency surgeries and believes staff should dress by choice, not community or family pressure. UK law allows dress codes but requires any restriction on religious clothing to be proportionate and for a legitimate reason. Her comments are likely to spark fresh debate on religious freedom and workplace rights. The UK has pledged a fulsome response to security concerns after reports the US has warned against allowing a Chinese embassy to be built near London's financial district. The Technology Secretary said any issues would be handled through the planning process. But Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has called the proposal a security risk, warning it could serve as a hub for Chinese espionage near critical infrastructure. He says the embassy should not be approved, echoing concerns reportedly raised by the White House. Well, breaking news from the Middle East in the last half hour or so that Israel's defence minister has vowed to stop an aid flotilla carrying Greta Thunberg and other activists from reaching Gaza. That vessel, Madeleine, operated by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, left Sicily last week aiming to break Israel's naval blockade and deliver much-needed humanitarian aid. But Israel Katz has posted on social media saying no boat will be allowed through, calling the blockade essential to stop arms reaching Hamas. It comes as tensions remain high after a previous flotilla attempt was struck by drones in international waters. That is an attack the group blamed on Israel. Staying with international news, Colombian presidential hopeful Miguel Turbe is now fighting for his life after being shot 3 times, twice in the head during a campaign rally. The 39-year-old senator was airlifted to hospital where supporters have now gathered in vigil. Police have arrested a 15-year-old suspect, but at this stage the motive remains unclear. And Sir David Attenborough has urged urgent action to save the world's oceans, telling Prince William, "We must act before we destroy this great treasure."
The thing which I am appalled by when I first saw the shots that were taken for this film are what we have done to the deep ocean floor.
Well, the pair was speaking after a private screening of Ocean, a new and powerful documentary narrated by Sir David himself, exposing the damage from overfishing and deep-sea trawling. Prince William, who calls Attenborough his inspiration, will address world leaders at a marine summit in Monaco, urging urgent and optimistic action. The film supports protecting 30% of marine areas by 2030. That is a goal both men say could help oceans recover. You're up to date just after 2 o'clock. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, before we get straight into the stories we're doing in this hour, I just want to flick back to the previous hour. At the end of the last hour, we had Aidan McGee on talking about the England game last night, but not what was going on the pitch, what the fans were chanting about Keir Starmer, which wasn't complimentary. Lots of you getting in touch. Just want to read one message out. Richard says, all football fans at all games should show how we feel about Starmer and co, and then maybe they will listen. Well, I wouldn't be holding your breath on it, but at least it's worth a try, isn't it? OK. Keep those messages coming in at gbnews.com/your say. Now, talking of politics, just 48 hours after dramatically quitting as Reform UK chairman over the party's row about banning the burqa, Zia Youssef is back. His sudden return has sparked fresh questions about chaos at the very top of the party and whether Reform can present a united front heading into a general election. Earlier, Deputy Leader of Reform Richard Tice spoke to our very own Camilla Tominey about Mr Youssef's return. Have a listen.
What's going on is that Zia is back. He's going to be running the Doge unit, and by his own admission, Zia's been working 24/7 for 11 months. And look, it's a very high-pressure job. He was doing the job of about 5 people brilliantly, but he was just exhausted. And so, we're delighted that he's going to crack on.
OK, exhausted. Joining me now is GB News political reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, exhausted? That sounds like a very good reason to actually quit. I mean, he's been working very hard for 11 months. But is there more to this than meets the eye?
Potentially, yeah. He's returning in a different role. He's returning, as you heard briefly from Deputy Leader Richard Tice there, to head up their Doge unit, which is essentially an offspring of the erstwhile unit run by Elon Musk in America. So he's going to be in charge of that across the 10 county councils that Reform won at the local elections. Was there some squabbling and behind the scenes back and forth? Well, potentially, but I think the fact he's come back so quickly is a recognition from Nigel Farage that they had a good relationship, or at least he was so important to the professionalisation effort of building the sort of grassroots level campaigning and delivering the results, particularly at the local elections, that it was worth bringing him back, albeit in a slightly reduced capacity. Like I said, he's still doing the Doge brief, but he'll also be in charge, or at least responsible partly, for fundraising as well. Beyond that, they are still hiring or going to recruit a new chairman and deputy chairman, which my colleague Christopher Hope reveal will be appointed in the next couple of days. And so those responsibilities previously were held by Zia Yusuf exclusively. They're now being splintered between the chair, the deputy, and then another who will also be partly responsible for the treasury and the fundraising arm of reform. So all of this is being shared amongst the leadership team. The chairman will be responsible for going to the branches and across the country as a sort of public-facing ambassador, and then the deputy chairman in charge of more operational matters as well. So, look, was he exhausted and burnt out? I mean, that's the official line. He came back very quickly afterwards. He was doing a lot of work and also, by their admission, receiving a lot of abuse for it. And I guess he eventually just, in a moment of a fit of pique, sort of left and then was talked back into returning. Does this make any difference in the long run? I would say it's still the Nigel Farage show, although of course they're trying to promote new characters. But I don't think it will make much of a difference. If you look at what happened with the Rupert Lowe case, that fallout. After that, they went on to do very well reform in the local elections anyway. So they will hope that just by getting back on the horse and maintaining momentum, this won't, in the long term, make a huge difference to their prospects.
Adam, that horse is heading to Wales next, and I believe you're covering this with Reform trying to take on the Welsh National Party and win Wales back from Labour, basically. Tell us more about that. It's happening this week, I believe.
Yeah, so we're expecting a press conference from Nigel Farage in Wales, and this is really setting up the stage for the Senate elections next year. So they are a year away. They are next May, but according to polling, Reform are doing very, very well there and potentially may become the largest party, and therefore you have a Reform First Minister of Wales. So this is part of the drumbeat of that campaign for the next 11-ish months. But I mean, given how well Reform did, OK, they came third in the Scottish by-election a couple of days ago, but they nonetheless ate into Labour's lead there quite significantly. And you heard Richard Tice, Deputy Leader, earlier today on this programme say that they're buoyed by that performance, and therefore, given the polling and the momentum, they hope they can do the same in Wales, and this is sort of the starting gun on that campaign.
OK, Adam will be following that, and GBNews will be following it live all next week. Adam Cherry, thank you very much. Now, joining me now is former Labour aide, our Stella Santakido. Stella, thank you so much for coming in to join us to talk about this subject. I mean, did it come as a shock to you about Zia?
It did. It absolutely did, because Zia was such a central figure, and I definitely felt that Nigel Farage in particular felt that his presence in the party was important because of the optics, because Zia obviously likes to portray himself as entrepreneurial, as a British Elon Musk, and the comparison between the success of Donald Trump in the US and the rising popularity of Reform in the UK was very convenient for Nigel. But I also think what is very important about what happened this week is that it shows the problem with Islamophobia that Nigel Farage is going to have to deal with, because having Zia as chair of the Reform Party is important because Zia is obviously a prominent British Muslim. So having him resigning because he just couldn't deal with all of the racist abuse he was getting on Twitter, and obviously it's not the only reason, but that was the cherry on the cake, right?
Yes, Zia has referred to the fact that he did get a lot of abuse. He describes himself as a British Muslim patriot, and says that the tirades of racist abuse on social media did play a part in his snap decision to step down. But do you think it does reflect badly on Reform, this recent upheaval, or do you think they can come back from it?
Of course it reflects badly, especially when you have a new Reform MP asking a question during PMQs, which is going to affect Muslim people. Even if you don't know anyone who wears a burqa, and even if you never plan to wear one, or even if you are completely against the burqa, you can see how could you have an MP basically making policy in the party without having ever consulted the most prominent Muslim figure in your own party. That doesn't make any sense.
He's the chairman, he's not an elected MP, so Zia
No, he's not, but the chairman nonetheless is a very prominent, he's their most prominent Muslim figure.
So do you think, I mean, by the time, do you think Reform are a racist party?
I think they have racists in them. I would not label any one party as a racist party unless I see something in their manifesto which is explicitly racist, or I would need more evidence basically to label a whole group. And the reason why I'm not doing that is because I really believe that when it comes to politics, you should give people a ladder to climb down rather than rope to hang themselves in, to hang themselves with. So if you start telling people that your politics are racist, you are a racist person, eventually they're going to start thinking, well, I think I'm a nice person, I don't think I'm racist. So if this is how you use the word racist, then, okay, fine then, I am racist by you, and I'm going to go ahead and do whatever I want anyway, and that is not the UK I want to live in.
What do you think they have said that makes them racist?
I think that the targeting of the complete obsession with immigrants, and specifically Muslim immigrants, I think has led to, especially on social media...
Over 41% of voters actually put immigration as their biggest worry now.
I don't think that immigration is the biggest problem. I think that immigration policy needs to change, and I think that the government is aware of that. But I think that when you are obsessing over this, and you are constantly having constant videos and vilification of a part of the population that is millions of people, and you're characterizing them, you're stigmatizing them basically by continuously just focusing on the bad apples. And I think that is a problem. And it is the same way that you used to say about the left, oh, you are demonizing the white working class because you're pointing at one bad white working class person, or, you know, a few of them who have done some bad things, and you're characterizing a whole group of people out of it. It's the same thing.
OK, so do you think if Zia hadn't gone back to reform, that had reinforced people's views of them being a racist party?
I think it would have been a problem because they would not have been able. I think at the moment they do sometimes use Zia as an example of, and I have heard this before when
You're saying he's almost like the token Asian man in the
Yes,
party.
exactly. And if any of the other mainstream parties, like the Labour Party or the Conservatives, the two bigger parties, if any of them had any similar issues, there would be a massive outcry, and we would be expecting the leadership of the parties to do investigations into the attitudes of their party, and why was it that the most prominent Muslim figure was not consulted before such a major policy announcement. But the Reform Party is not yet being held to those standards.
OK, I mean, Labour are at war on spending plans. We know Rachel Reeves is going to announce, you know, the spending plans on Wednesday, I believe it is. I mean, there is all divide in that party, divide in the Conservative Party, divide in Reform, it now seems. But Labour are clearly worried about Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. I mean, no one can be interviewed from the Labour Party without mentioning Nigel Farage and Reform, for a start.
Keir Starmer did say that now Reform is the main opposition, and that is just what the numbers show. The Conservative Party is in complete disarray, and Reform is very, very likely to completely outperform at the next elections and in the next 4 years. So yes, they are absolutely worried about all of the noise that's coming out of the Reform Party. But at the same time, the more Reform is being scrutinised and the more Nigel Farage is being scrutinised, the more the chaos that is being shown is going to scare a lot of voters who were more likely to move towards Reform and to vote for them. And I think this is why perhaps even the fact that Zia Youssef changed his mind within 48 hours, on the one hand, OK, he stayed within the fold, that's good. On the other hand, it is very chaotic. It is a very abrupt U-turn.
Do you think he had the pressure put on him?
I don't know whether he had the pressure or whether he took the decision without thinking it through, and he realized that, wait a minute, in 4 years' time, maybe it is in my best interest to just stay. And I think that he just doesn't have political instinct, because if he had political instinct, he would know that it is not OK to only let the beloved figure of your party know 10 minutes before your announcement that you're going to be resigning. This is not how things are done.
Interesting. Stella, thank you very much. As always, interesting thoughts. That's our Stella Santaquido there. Well, what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. I mean, many have you very strong opinions on reform, so please do get in touch and let you know what you've heard Stella say and what you think about the situation. Has it damaged reform, or do you think it makes them stronger, the fact they are uniting once again? Let me know. gbnews.com/your say. But do you want some good news? In any case, we are counting down to your best summer so far with £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. It's the biggest cash a Great British giveaway to date, and it could all be yours. Here's all the details. It's very simple. Go on, have a go.
We're kick-starting summer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only.
Good luck indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show as King Charles steps out of the saddle for Trooping the Colour coming up. Is all the pomp and pageantry still relevant, or is the royal spectacle kind of lost its shine for most people? We'll have that debate soon. All of that and much more. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. You've got time to put the kettle on, but don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Yeah, you can, but no one likes a snitch. And I think office politics are often hard enough and enough of a minefield without getting involved. I think you have to leave it to the management. Unless you're their manager or their supervisor, I think trust in the process, don't stick your nose in, because everyone always shoots the messenger. And in my experience, whenever I have flagged anything, it has normally turned round and bitten me rather nastily. So I wouldn't be getting involved.
But everybody suffers, Steve. That's my point of view. We're all being dragged down by these people who aren't pulling their weight.
Oh, I say bring on the snitch, whatever you want to call it, because at the end of the day, of course, you know, I go to work to earn my money. I don't go to work to earn your money. And coming back to the point the other contributor makes, you know, if the manager is a good manager, and let's say they are, then they'll obviously keep it confidential as well. The other thing we have to remember is that if someone is not pulling their weight, it builds up resentment. It builds up frustration and irritation. The other thing I would say as well is that a lot of teams out there, especially sales teams and customer service teams, are bonused on the team result. So, you know, if someone's behaving like a tortoise and I'm behaving like a racehorse, I'm sorry, I'm snitching.
Yeah, I mean, Sally, it's not fair on the whole team, is it, if somebody isn't pulling their weight?
No, that's absolutely true. But in a sales environment, that person will not last long. They will be thrown out. It just doesn't happen. And maybe I'm just not that much of a team player. I don't really care what anyone else is doing. As long as I'm all right, then I'm not going to worry about anybody else.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Oh, hello. Abby made a cup of tea for me as well. I could do with one. Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company. Let's talk the royals, shall we? King Charles is stepping back from one of the most traditional royal duties. That's riding on horseback for Trooping of the Colour, which is coming up, I think, in a week's time, isn't it? At 76 and undergoing cancer treatment, he'll now take the salute from a carriage, just as Queen Elizabeth did in her later years. But as the King trades saddle for state coach, it raises a bigger question. Does the pomp and pageantry of royal events like Trooping the Colour still resonate with modern Britain? Or are we holding on to rituals that really reflect the country, and do we really care? Joining me now is a culture historian and senior fellow at New Culture Forum, Dr. Philip Kisley, and human rights activist Peter Tatchell. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Now, I wanted to do this debate, Trooping of the Colour, big event, but I mentioned it to a younger member of the family and they went, yeah, right, OK, what's going on there then? They weren't even really aware of it. So, coming to you first, Philip, is it really important anymore? Are the royals really relevant?
Yes, I think it is, and yes, I think they are. Just because a young person says, so what, it doesn't mean we have to change our history. I think the spectacle is important because it's symbolic, OK, and people really respond to that notion of heritage and grandeur. But I think it's about more than that. It's about constitutional monarchy, and as we know, there are three key points here. Constitutional monarchy produces higher standards of living than republics. It protects property rights and individual property because in the long term, it's not as vulnerable to ideology. And it holds a check on politicians as well. I'd much rather have King Charles than President Blair. And it's about continuity. It's about that contract between generations. And that really speaks to stability, heritage and history. It's part of who we are as well. It's part of our identity. And if you remove the royal family, if you remove monarchy from British culture, then you destroy the fabric of British culture. They are as English and as part of us as popular culture, literature, music, the common law, democracy, the land, the place, all of that thing. It's part of who we are. So I think it's massively important. And people do. We know, the research tells us that people do respond to this kind of thing. They respond to the grandeur. They love it.
Peter, it's part of who we are. It's part of our culture. What's wrong with it? It also brings in tourist money. I mean, we should celebrate the royals still, or should we?
Well, there's no doubt that Trooping of the Colour and other big state occasions are spectacular. They are glorious. They are beautiful. They're a bit like a very good show, a musical at a theatre with fabulous props and costumes. It is glorious, but it really is a bit of a soap opera. I don't think Trooping the Colour needs the presence of the king to make it a spectacle. You know, even if there were no royals at all, it would still be a spectacle. Over in France, they got rid of the monarchy 2 centuries ago, yet the royal palace of Versailles has more visitors and gets more tourist money than any royal palace or event here in Britain. If you look at our own statistics, Legoland is just a short hop, skip and jump away from Windsor Castle. It gets many more visitors than any royal castle or other event. So we don't need the royals to have spectacle. We can have spectacle without it. And
Okay,
I think,
Peter, you're not suggesting chopping their heads off, are you?
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. No, I'd be very kind and gentle. But the one point that was made was that the royals are part of British culture and tradition. Well, in fact, the royals are German descent, who were basically, by their own internal agreement, took over the British throne. They are the Saxe-Coburgs from Germany. They're not genuinely long British heritage. Of course, I accept them as British now, but the idea that they are part of some long lineage of British people is simply not true. They are of German descent.
OK, Philip, they're just migrants, basically. We don't like migrants in this country. Let's get rid of them. Chop their heads off.
Send them back. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, when radical leftists, all of a sudden, when it's something they don't like, they become blood and soil nationalists. It's really quite odd that is the argument that's being put forward, especially when it comes straight after the Legoland argument as well. I think this is absolutely nonsense. We're talking about our heritage here. We're talking about history. You can't have pomp and ceremony, which is fundamentally about the royal family, actually, because they are centre of the whole thing, without having the royal family there.
Peter, I noticed you shaking your head.
The French have pomp and ceremony. The Élysée Guard are spectacular in their uniforms and their military formations. Versailles is there without any royals, one of the most magnificent palaces in the world. We don't need the royals. The royals are very expensive. They cost us a lot of money, much more than the civil list. If you add in the security and all the other arrangements, the royals cost a lot of money, even though they have a personal private wealth of over £2 billion. We are expected to pay for their 23 royal palaces and residences, their 700 servants. I don't think that's fair and right at a cost of living crisis. I wouldn't treat them badly, but I just don't think we need them. And they're not consistent with a modern democracy, a meritocracy, where people are supposed to get their place in society based on merit and qualification.
OK, Philip, let's come back to you. Legoland's cheaper.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous as well that you're using France as a model of excellence there. I'm just thinking about the riots the other Saturday. Let's just go back to the key points. We're not just talking about specific palaces, which are ours, actually, not theirs. Specific palaces and millions here and millions there. I talked about higher standards of living, okay, and that is a fact, okay. Constitutional monarchies have higher standards of living than republics. So what you're suggesting, Peter, is that you just take away the monarchy because you don't like them and make everybody else poorer. Okay, I don't think that's an argument, okay. If you're looking towards very unstable places like France at the moment, then you are also putting people's property rights at risk, okay, and their individual liberty as well. Everything that's been going on here, all around identity politics, LGBTQI+, critical race theory, all of that stuff is about undermining, okay, is about undermining who and what we are and the stability of this country. That's what always happens with radical leftism. What the monarchy represents is a kind of Burkean contract, longevity between the generations, okay? It's about stability, and that small c conservative is very important to most people in this country, whether they're Reform voters, whether they're Conservatives, and a lot of old school Labour voters as well.
OK, Peter, I know she's shaking your head again. A lot of your core beliefs, which were alluded to just then, are undermining society.
This is not about undermining society. It's about upgrading society, becoming a modern meritocratic democracy where the highest public office in the land, head of state, should be elected, chosen by the people, not imposed on the people because someone's born into a very rich, powerful, privileged family. Moreover, the Scandinavian democracies and other constitutional monarchies, that is not the cause of the high standard of living. Those monarchs have no role whatsoever in government policy. So the idea that monarchy means higher standard of living, that is simply not true. In fact, we could say that without the monarchy, we would save a lot of money, which could be invested in the National Health Service and social care for older people. We can still have the spectacle. I'm not against the spectacle. That's lovely. But we don't need as France has shown, we don't need a royal family to have spectacle. And, you know, the idea that France is unstable because they had riots last week. We had riots in 2022 and 2021. That's a silly argument. Got nothing to do with monarchy whatsoever.
Gentlemen, I could carry on talking to you both all day. It's been absolutely fascinating. I never expected Legoland to come up in that debate, though. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Philip Kisley from the New Culture Forum and obviously human rights activist Peter Tatchell. Well, what do you make of that one? Please do let me know at gbnews.com/your say. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show, including Legoland, possibly. But first, let's get the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom at 2:34. We start in the United States, where Donald Trump has ordered the National Guard into LA following violent clashes over immigration raids in predominantly Latino districts. The president posted on Truth Social warning that radical left protests by, he says, paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. California's Governor Gavin Newsom has slammed the move, though, as purposefully inflammatory and said it will only escalate tensions. LA's mayor says the troops haven't yet arrived, but federal officials confirm they will be on the ground within 24 hours. Here, more than 60,000 NHS appointments were cancelled during just 5 days of strike action last summer, including many for cancer patients. Figures seen exclusively by GBNews reveal that 63,000 procedures were scrapped during the July 2024 walkout, including vital biopsies, blood tests and X-rays. The Health Secretary is now urging doctors to reconsider further strike plans, warning the disruption risks delaying life-saving diagnosis. And Israel's defence minister has, in the last hour or so, vowed to stop an aid flotilla carrying Greta Thunberg and other activists from reaching Gaza. The vessel, called Madeleine, operated by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, left Sicily last week, aiming to break Israel's naval blockade and deliver humanitarian aid. But Israel Katz has said no boat will be allowed through, calling the blockade essential to stop arms from reaching Hamas. Tensions are high after previous flotilla attempts were struck by drones in international waters, an attack that the group has blamed on Israel. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you at the top of the hour. Now, though, let's head back to Dawn.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sam. Now, remember, please do let me know your thoughts on all the stories we have been covering, from the royals to reform to Legoland to Greta Thunberg. We've had so much. It's a packed show, but it's your views that count. And I promise I will read as many. There's so many coming in. I'm trying to keep up. Just by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay and joining the conversation. Loads more coming up on today's incredibly packed show. We're running out of time. 2 prep schools are shutting down after Labour's VAT levy takes effect. The fee-paying schools becoming unsustainable, or is this a long overdue shake-up? All of that and much more to come. I'm Dawn Needs and this is GB News. Don't go too far. We'll see you very soon.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, after a wet day for some of us yesterday, today is offering something a little bit brighter, but still the risk of some showers. So yesterday's rain all moving off now towards the continent. That's allowing this area of high pressure to briefly build in, settling things down a little bit, but there will still be some showers around, chiefly across more northern and central parts. Some of these showers, again, still could be on the heavy side, but in between we will see some spells of sunshine, and especially for us in the south, it will feel a little bit warmer than it did yesterday. We see highs reaching 19, possibly 20 degrees in the odd spot. So as we end out Sunday afternoon across the south, for many southern counties we should remain fairly dry with some late spells of sunshine. But for East Anglia, the Midlands, Wales, continuation of some showers here. And a very similar story for Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland. But even here, away from any showers, there will still be some late spells of sunshine as we see out the weekend. But do watch out for maybe a more persistent band of rain just arriving into the very far northwest of Scotland. Overnight, the showers becoming a little bit fewer and further between. That will allow more in the way of clearer skies to develop, so that could just allow some mist and fog to form as we go through the morning hours of Monday. But under the clear skies, it will be another fairly fresh night. Temperatures away from the towns and cities falling into mid-single figures. But I think most towns and cities probably holding up around 10 to 12 degrees. So a bright start for most of us on Monday morning. Plenty of sunshine, especially in the east, but thicker cloud moves in across Northern Ireland and Scotland as the morning goes on, and that's going to then bring in some rain as the day goes on. It's remaining largely dry and bright across the far south of the country, and it's here where we'll see the highest of the temperatures, could see temperatures reaching 21.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. I just want to I did promise to read as many of your comments out as possible, and we're just having the debate about the royals and Trooping the Colour coming up, and the fact that, you know, do younger people really care? And we had Peter Tatchell on doing the debate. I thought it was quite an interesting debate, actually. But Boney says, listening to Peter Tatchell is like someone running fingernails down a chalkboard. The royal family bring huge amounts of tourism and investment into the country than we spend on them, not to mention the soft power. Very important point, actually. If Tatchell wants to live in a republic, there is always a France. Yes, we did mention France, didn't we? Quite a bit, to be honest with you. In any case, we are moving on, but do keep your comments coming in, gbnews.com/your say. Now, let's go on to schools and VAT. Private school pupil numbers in England have fallen by 11,000. Now, before you go, well, yeah, who cares? Where are those kids going to go? Yeah. State schools. That's more than 3 times Labour's original forecast, and that's following the party's VAT hike on fees. The sharp decline has already pushed some prep schools to shut their doors, with critics warning that the excess is obviously going to pile pressure on state education. One of the most recent closures is Park Hill School in Kingston, Surrey, which blamed a fall in enrolment caused by the 20% tax for making the school financially unsustainable. Joining me now is head teacher at a private school, LVS in Ascot, Christine Cunniff. Christine, thank you so much for joining me today. Good to see you. Now, Christine, as soon as you start debating this, everyone goes, oh, it's only posh people, it doesn't matter. But lots of ordinary families, and it's a cliche, do struggle to send their youngsters to fee-paying schools. What do you make of this?
Well, no one's ever called me posh. I think that's probably something that I could never be attributed to. But no, it is totally, that's an assumption. And what we're going through at the moment is a real crisis. You know, to hear about 2 more schools in the Surrey area, where Surrey itself do not have any places for children. And, you know, parents are being offered places way out of the county, which is additional costs for transport, because if the school is 3 miles further than your home, then the local authority will pay your transport costs as well. So this is a very real crisis. Children are leaving private schools. This 11,000 are children who have failed to come to our schools. The census in January proved that, and the government-owned figures on the 18th of July 2024 said that there will be an increase in secondary school pupils by 1% a year, which is actually thousands. It might sound like it's only 1%, but it's thousands, and that's accumulative. And there are 27 local authorities who do not have school places for children.
This is the problem. When Labour first mooted this idea, everyone said, well, what do you do with the kids that then can't afford to go to those schools? You're going to have provision in the state sector for them. But it's the number of pupils going to private schools has fallen by 1.9%. And Labour are going, yeah, well, I mean, that's, you know, it's standard. That's what's happening all across the board. But it isn't, because it's only 0.7% drop in pupil numbers across the state sector. So there is something going on here.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, you know, we're told all this fluffy noise to detract from the real problem that's going on at the moment. And, you know, it might not sound a lot when you look at it percentage-wise, but it's still thousands of children. And if it continues to drop like this, the government are not going to get the revenue they hope they would get to help the 93% of the rest of the children in the country.
Now, this is, I mean, Bridget Phillipson notoriously sent that letter or put a statement out, didn't she, saying, oh, well, private schools, they've got our embossed letterhead and AstroTurf pictures. I mean, do you think this is actually about the politics of education or the politics of envy?
Oh, it's definitely politics of envy. I mean, it would be lovely if she could come and actually see any of us, because I don't think there's any schools that she's seen. And many schools, you know, they're having problems with the state of repair and keeping up the upkeep of the buildings. You know, come and see us, come and talk to us, get to know about our sector, and then you might have more of an informed decision.
Why do you think they are carrying on with this? Because it is going to place, I mean, many ordinary schools in the state sector under enormous pressure. We know many are suffering. We've got large classes. Teachers can't cope as it is. There's so much pressure on teachers as it is. Did Labour not see this coming?
Oh, yeah, well, I think anybody can see it coming. I mean, put it this way, if me, you know, just a lonely head teacher out in Berkshire can see it coming, I'm sure government can see it coming. And, you know, and it's awful for the state sector. I've got many peers in the state sector who talk about the pressures. They haven't got the funding, they haven't got the places, they haven't got the support. And now they're going through challenges as well. I mean, look what's happening to the academies, look what's happening to the curriculum. It's a real onslaught of education generally.
Christine, if you had one message, if Bridget Phillipson was in the room with you now, what would you say to her?
Please just listen and come and see us. We can work together on this.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we've heard the same from the farmers as well. It does make you wonder who they're listening to. And football fans, possibly they should listen to. That is Christine Cunliffe. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Now, if you are about to escape, I don't blame you in one bit. In search of some holiday sun, here's a forecast for some of those top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
High pressure is in charge for much of Europe over the next couple of days, bringing plenty of dry, warm and sunny weather. However, there will still be one or two showers around, particularly across parts of Madeira, the Canary Islands, as we go through Monday afternoon. But elsewhere, high pressure in charge, bringing dry, sunny and some really warm weather over the next couple of days. We could see temperatures into the high 20s, perhaps even into the low 30s across parts of Spain, Portugal and across parts of Italy too. But plenty of sunshine is on the cards.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Yeah, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show. We've got a tiny amount of time together. We've got a crack of a story to finish with. Has a panther really been spotted prowling near Ed Sheeran's home? Is he in trouble? Locals are spooked, and we've got all the details, all of them, much more to come. This is GB News at Britain's News Channel. We'll see you soon.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Newsom. I've just got to read a couple of your messages out because, sorry, the system has been playing up and you are travelling. I just want to say hello to Bedford Babe because I read her husband's message out, so now I've read yours out as well, Bedford. And we are about to talk to Panthers stalking the English countryside, in particular Ed Sheeran. And Mick, and I can say this because I'm married to one, Mick says, Panthers don't eat gingers, they taste of wee. Look, there I said it. OK, if you are ginger and you want to get in touch, complain, please do. gbnews.com/you'll say. OK, now, a new exotic animal has been spotted. A big cat is feared. Yeah, we've just been talking about it. On the prowl near Ed Sheeran's Suffolk country estate after a Black Panther-like feline was spotted in the countryside nearby before vanishing out of sight. They always do, don't they? Joining us me now to get more on this story is showbiz journalist Lebby Ayres, the wonderful Lebby Ayres. Lebby, thank you so much for joining me. Right, OK. It is the silly season we're coming into with the newspapers, but this one is a sexier panther because it's stalking Ed Sheeran. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. Apparently on April 23rd, some locals about 5 miles away from Ed's mansion, 3.7 million mansion, I should say. They spotted a big black cat and they've got some photographic evidence of this creature sort of prowling along the edge of a field. And I think locals heard growling. And I think that but panthers quite common, these sightings in Suffolk and then also in places like Dartmoor as well. But it's definitely not quite the start of the silly season, perhaps, but this is definitely a bit of a story that heralds the arrival of the silly season, I think. I'm not sure Ed will be too worried, but apparently they have reached out to his people for comment.
Exactly, and this is happening at Eye in Suffolk, which is just 5 miles away from Ed's country sprawl, as he does seem to own most of Suffolk now. And it's, it describes a large black animal. But Lebby, every time we investigate these stories, I mean, you've worked on newspapers and magazines, nearly as long as I have. Every time we investigate these stories, it does turn out, actually, that no one can actually prove anything. So do we think this is just one of those, as I said, it's a bit early for the silly season, but it's either that or talking about politics?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think, to be honest, with the news and the way it is, that we all need a bit of light relief on a Sunday, and that's the purpose of one of these stories. I think it tends to be these sightings usually end up to be a rather large tabby cat that has accidentally got on the loose, or a large black cat in this case. But yeah, maybe even one of Ed Sheeran's own pets, who knows? But yeah, nothing for him too much to worry about, I don't think, yet.
Well, he'll probably be writing another album about it and call it after... I mean, he calls all his albums a bit like Elon Musk calls his kids, doesn't he? I mean, no one can pronounce any of them, but they've all got weird, complicated things. Lebby, thank you so much. That's showbiz journalist Lebby Ayres there, bringing us up to date on the terror of the Black Panther stalking Ed Sheeran. Well, what do you think to that one? gbnews.com/you'll say. Unfortunately, we are all out of time, but thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm back next weekend and had the rest of a brilliant weekend. Enjoy yourself. But don't go anywhere because we have the wonderful Nana Akua. She's up next and she's always got a cracker of a show for you. Nana, what you got this time round?
Well, thank you, Dawn. Yes, we've got quite a fun show for you. OK, so let's talk Greta Thunberg. She's currently playing chicken with the Israeli army. So we'll be following that story. It is in my niggle. Is she just a precocious young teen who's just bitten off a little bit more than she can chew? Or has she got a point? I'll also have Uri Geller. He's back. He'll be discussing that. And, of course, Dawn French and her nonsense comments online, which she eventually deleted and apologised for. Plus, we'll be talking about Reform UK and whether you can actually trust them, seeing as we've had a bit of a U-turn. Do U-turning parties do well? There is loads on the show, so Graham Brady will be here as my interview about his brand new book. All of that is coming up. Stay with me, that is on the way in a matter of moments. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Well, looking ahead, it's going to stay fairly changeable across the UK, but as we head towards the middle part of next week, it could potentially start to turn very warm and humid. But for the here and now, we've still got this area of high pressure building in. That's trying to settle the weather down, but we still have some showers as we see out Sunday afternoon. Most frequent showers will be across the north, but as we go through the course of the night, these showers will become fewer and further between, allowing more in the way of clear skies to develop. So that will set us up for a fairly fresh end to the night, maybe also some mist and fog patches. In the countryside, could see lows falling into mid-single figures. So as we start Monday morning, a fairly bright start across eastern Scotland, some good sunshine here, elsewhere across eastern England as well. But for western Scotland, the cloud already beginning to build in with some outbreaks of rain here, and that cloud and rain also settled in across parts of Northern Ireland. But for much of England and Wales, it should be a fairly bright start. The odd shower around, with the best of the sunshine probably down towards the far southeastern corner. And really, it's the far southeast will probably hang on to the best of the brightness throughout the course of the day as thicker cloud moves in during the course of Monday across many western and central areas. The rain mainly focused across Northern Ireland and Scotland, but it will arrive into parts of northern England and Wales as we move into the afternoon. And as I mentioned, down towards the far southeast, hanging on to the best of the driest, brightest weather, and it's here where we see the highest temperatures reaching around 21 degrees. Into the evening hours, the cloud and rain across Northern Ireland and Scotland will continue to make its progress eastwards. Some heavy rain as it does so, especially across the Pennines, maybe northern parts of Wales too, but that will clear through.